Okay, so today we're starting this deep dive with a story that really challenges that whole idea that wealth, keeps you safe from darkness. Our mission here is to understand how the heir to this huge Canadian aviation fortune became, well, a calculated serial killer, and how three separate murders got linked together over a really shockingly short time.
Yeah, what's immediately clear when you look into this is that this isn't crime driven by, desperation or need. Not at all. It's a case where huge wealth and these inherited assets, specifically a private airplane hangar, they didn't just mean a luxury life. They actually provided the perfect setup, the tools for what they called criminal missions.
Exactly. We're looking at the disturbing details of the Dellen Millard case, focusing on that dark partnership he had and the technology they used, including this huge industrial incinerator, basically to try and erase their victims. The source material really paints this picture of betrayal and entitlement that it stunned Canada. Let's maybe start with the event that kicked the whole investigation off, Tim Bosma's disappearance.
Right. Tim Bosma. He was 32. Just seemed like the ultimate family man. A contractor, involved in his community, loved country music, and he was selling his pickup truck. Just trying to get funds for some house renovations, and totally ordinary guy doing an ordinary thing.
But then, May 6, 2013, that ordinary thing went horribly wrong. Bosma met this potential buyer who apparently showed up late. Tim was worried, maybe the guy would just take off with the truck, so he decided to go along for the test drive. He never came back.
His wife, Charlene, she raised the alarm immediately. And because Tim was so well known and liked in the community, the search just exploded. Over 100 volunteers, they call themselves the Bosma Army. The initial police work was tough, but eventually they got a huge break with CCTV footage.
And this is where that wealth factor really kicks in again, isn't it? The footage showed Tim's truck, yeah, but it wasn't heading down some suburban street. It was going towards a really secure private airplane hangar owned by the Millard family.
And if that wasn't already sinister, the video showed this chilling little convoy. Bosma's truck was being followed by a dark SUV, and that SUV, it was towing this large industrial piece of machinery.
An industrial-grade incinerator. They later nicknamed it the Illuminator. And the two men seen getting out of the vehicles at the hangar were Dellen Millard, the heir, and his friend Mark Smitch. Tim's wife actually confirmed Millard was the buyer. He was the one who took Tim on that test drive.
So warrants were issued, they made the arrests, and the evidence they found at the hangar just confirmed everyone's worst fears. Tim's truck was there, inside. Bullet casings and luminol tests lit up for blood, showing there'd been a violent struggle, even though they'd tried to clean it up. Millard's fingerprints were just everywhere.
And then there was the Illuminator, that incinerator. Forensic analysis confirmed it. The remains found inside that huge furnace, they belonged to Tim Bosma. So a missing person case just instantly blew up into this major murder investigation.
Yeah, the focus immediately shifted, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't about finding Tim anymore. It was about understanding who these two guys were, especially Millard. This wasn't some random act. It was planned, it was executed, and they tried to cover it up using resources that, frankly, only immense wealth could buy.
But to really get your head around that level of cold planning, we need to kind of pull back from the hangar for a minute and look at the guy who owned it. Who exactly was Dellen Millard? Born 85, basically set for life, sole heir to Millard Air, this huge business his grandfather started. I mean, he was driving a car at 10, flying planes at 14, even set some kind of world record.
Yeah, a child of extreme privilege. But the accounts we have suggest there was this deep inner conflict going on. He was apparently bullied pretty badly in school, even had this nickname, the Dog Biscuit Kid. It's kind of unclear why, but points to some real social difficulties. And he felt pressured to take over the family business, but just had zero motivation. Felt like everything was just handed to him too easy.
So he's got all the money, all the privilege, but it sounds like he didn't have the social standing or maybe the confidence he wanted. Is it maybe fair to say that the whole Dog Biscuit Kid thing kind of morphed into this pathological need to project a bad boy image using crime?
I think that's a very plausible read on it, yes.
Yeah.
The privilege wasn't enough. He seemed to crave thrills, notoriety, and that's exactly where Mark Smitch enters the picture. Smitch came from more of a middle-class background, had a troubled past, drugs, minor crimes, and he was Millard's sort of passport into that criminal world he seemed to admire.
And their partnership, which started around 2006, sounds purely transactional. Smitch needed Millard for cash, maybe funding for his dream of being a rapper. And Millard used Smitch to get access to illegal guns, connections, basically trying to transform himself from this spoiled rich kid into some kind of criminal figure.
And their crime started out so bizarrely. It wasn't about money initially. It was about the thrill. They'd buy expensive things, jet skis, construction gear, TVs, and then they just attach bombs to them and blow them up for fun. It's just an extraordinary display of entitlement, really. And you see this pattern, this craving for escalating destruction that tragically went from destroying property to eliminating people.
Right. So once Millard and Smitch were arrested for Tim Bosma's murder, investigators must have thought, okay, this probably wasn't their first rodeo. They pretty quickly connected them to two other recent cold cases, didn't they? The disappearance of Millard's ex-girlfriend and the very suspicious death of his own father.
Exactly. Let's look at that first cold case, Laura Babcock. She disappeared back in July 2012. Laura was an aspiring actress, and she had this kind of on-again, off-again, maybe friends with benefits type relationship with Millard. This was happening even while he was officially dating someone else, Christina Nigga.
And the motive here seems almost chillingly simple for Millard, just convenience. Nudiga found out about the affair and basically gave Millard an ultimatum. Cut ties with Laura or it's over. And Millard apparently promised his girlfriend he'd eliminate her, he'd take care of it. Just like that.
And the timeline is just damning. Yeah. Millard gets an illegal gun through Smitch's connections. Laura was last seen meeting Millard on July 3rd, 2012. Then, and this is crucial, just 2 days later, July 5th, that huge industrial incinerator, the Illuminator, gets delivered to the hangar. It shows this incredible calculated preparation.
Wow. And the digital trail they left? Just no room for doubt. Police found texts from Millard to Smitch's, things like, BBQ is heating up, ready to roast some meat. They also found Millard's internet search history. He'd been looking up the exact temperature needed to cremate a human body.
And Smitch's role was cemented, incredibly, through Laura's own iPad. He actually took it after she disappeared and used it to record some rap lyrics. And those lyrics, they described a woman who was unlucky, met a gruesome end. The details basically matched Laura's disappearance and how they likely disposed of her body. It proved he was directly involved in her murder.
Unbelievable. Okay, so the third victim. This brings the tragedy right into Millard's own family, his father, Wayne Millard. His death was in November 2012, just 4 months after Laura vanished, and it was initially ruled a suicide, found with a gunshot wound to the eye.
But when investigators dug deeper, they found evidence the suicide was staged, whose fingerprints were found on the gun used in the supposed suicide, Dellen Millard's. And the motive seems purely financial and, well, about avoiding responsibility. Wayne was actively trying to get Dellen ready to take over Billionaire Heir, manage these huge projects. Dellen just wanted out. He didn't want the oversight.
Right. And the proof is pretty overwhelming, right? After Wayne died, Dellen inherited everything. And what did he do? He immediately started spending the money lavishly, shut down all the projects his father had set up. The murder looks like a cold, calculated move just to grab control and ditch the responsibility his father represented.
And the prosecution was successful in linking all three crimes. They showed this clear, consistent pattern of behavior, a pattern aimed at just eliminating inconveniences, using the unique resources Millard had at his disposal.
So the legal outcome was pretty severe. Dellen Millard was convicted on all 3 counts of first-degree murder. Laura Babcock, Wayne Millard, Tim Bosma. He got life in prison, no chance of parole for 75 years. They stacked the sentences, 25 years for each murder.
And Mark Smitch, he was convicted for the murders of Tim Bosma and Laura Babcock. 2 counts. He also received life sentences, meaning he has to serve at least 50 years before he could even be considered for parole.
This case really did bring up a lot of questions, a lot of criticism about the cost of inaction. People pointed to the police's initial response to Laura Babcock going missing maybe too slow, too perfunctory, and how quickly Wayne Millard's death was just ruled a suicide. The big question hangs there. Could this whole spree, which relied so much on planning and secrecy, have actually been stopped sooner?
It's definitely a case that psychologists still study because the why is so complex. You see signs maybe pointing to severe alcoholism, possibly antisocial personality disorder, maybe that extreme entitlement from his upbringing playing a huge role. There's no single easy answer. But the key conclusion, I think, across all 3 crimes is that consistent pattern. The careful acquisition of tools like the incinerator, the meticulous planning, and the cold, deliberate removal of anyone who became a problem.
It's just such a stark reminder, isn't it, that the very wealth that should have given Millard security and freedom, it only seemed to fuel this desire for dangerous, illegal thrills, using his assets, like that hangar in the incinerator, as basically operational tools for murder.
And it really does raise an important question, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about. When you have this overwhelming inherited wealth, meeting this unchecked destructive ambition, How much responsibility do the structures of privilege themselves bear when that ambition finally turns deadly?
We really appreciate you joining us for this deep dive today. Thank you for listening.